Hello everyone, and welcome back. And just for you listener, I'll be reading another collection of shocking, sad, dark Reddit confessions. This video is a little bit on the longer side, so sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. I let my cyberbullies believe that I actually killed myself and I will never tell them the truth. By Which Presents 8621. In 2021 and 2022, when I was 17 to 18 years old, I spent a lot of time in a specific Discord server. Looking back, the environment was incredibly toxic. A group of users in that server targeted me and cyberbullied me relentlessly. It got to a point where my mental health was completely shattered. One day, I just couldn't take it anymore, and in a moment of sheer desperation and distress, I messaged another user in the server and told him that I was going to end my life. Right after sending that message, I logged out of my account. I didn't delete the account, I just abandoned it entirely and completely cut ties with everyone remotely related to that server. Somewhere down the line, after time had passed and I was in a better place, I decided to create a brand new Discord account. Out of curiosity, I used that new account to rejoin that old server just to see what had happened. Turned out, Chuckles, the people who had bullied me, actually believed that I was dead. Looking through the chat history and the way they spoke about me, it was obvious that they felt immense guilt for how they treated me and how things supposedly ended. They genuinely think their actions drove someone to suicide. I watched them mourn and deal with that guilt, but I never said a word. I didn't reveal myself, and I never did anything to let them know that I am actually still alive. Getting into some comments down below, one person says, "They learned what guilt feels like only when they thought there was a body. No reason to lift that weight off them now." Another person who comments is down below on that saying, "Crazy how empathy only showed up when they thought the consequences were real." It's not even about missing the person, it's the sudden realization they're not the good guys in their own story. Someone else says, "Deserved. That's a lesson well taught." Am I the asshole for cutting off my daughter after she slept with her sister's husband? By user Remote War 7356. I, 59 female, have two daughters. Emma, 35 female, and Chloe, 33 female. Emma has been married to her husband, 36 male, for 11 years, and they have two children together. Chloe has been married to her husband, 34 male, for 8 years, and they have a 5-year-old son. About 6 weeks ago, Emma called me just after midnight, completely hysterical. She told me she suspected for months that her husband was hiding something. He'd become distant, constantly guarded his phone, and was always finding excuses to stay late at work. That night, after he fell asleep beside her, she looked through his phone for the first time. She found years of explicit messages between him and Chloe. The affair had been going on for almost 4 years. Emma was devastated. She kept asking me how her own sister could do this to her. A few days later, we were at my brother's birthday party when Emma confronted Chloe outside. Chloe denied everything at first and insisted Emma had misunderstood. When Emma says she had read the messages herself, Chloe completely fell apart. She started crying, admitted the affair, and kept repeating, "I don't know why I did it. I'm so sorry. It was the biggest mistake of my life." Emma asks how 4 years could possibly be a mistake. Chloe had no answer. The argument escalated into a screaming match. Chloe tried to slap Emma, but several relatives stepped in before she could. Chloe's husband quietly took their son home after realizing what had happened, and within days, he told Chloe he wanted a divorce. Emma also filed for divorce after her husband admitted everything. After it all came out, Chloe called me 82 times in one day. I answered once because I hoped she was calling to explain herself. Instead, she cried the entire time, begging me not to abandon her. She said she'd already lost her husband, was probably going to lose shared custody of her son, and couldn't bear losing her mother too. She says she knew she didn't deserve forgiveness but begged me not to hate her forever. I told her I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I said this wasn't one bad decision. It was years of lying to her sister, her husband, and the rest of us. I told her I loved her because she's my daughter, but I didn't want to contact her for the foreseeable future. Since then, I've ignored every attempt she's made to reach out. This is where my family thinks I'm wrong. My sisters say Chloe has already lost everything: her marriage, her relationship with her sister, many of her friends, and likely the family she dreamed of giving her son. They say she's genuinely remorseful and has started individual therapy and isn't trying to justify what she did. They argue that if a mother won't stand by her child after they've hit rock bottom, who will? They also remind me that cutting Chloe off means even my grandson is growing up without his grandmother, even though he's done nothing wrong. I understand all of that. But every time I think about welcoming Chloe back into my life, I picture Emma reading those messages alone in the middle of the night, realizing that two of the people she trusted most had been lying to her for years. I don't know if I can move past that. My family says I'm punishing Chloe forever for something she is already deeply regretting. I feel like I'm simply refusing to pretend it never happened. Am I the asshole? I know a lot of people are used to seeing cheating posts and always think they're fake, but what would you do if you were in my shoes? Getting into the comments, a couple Redditors say, not the asshole. She's not, quote, genuinely remorseful. She says she got caught and is facing the consequences. Can't you have a relationship with your grandson via his father? Tell your sisters to mind their own business. This is between you and your daughters, nothing to do with them. And the OP responds by saying, I can kind of have a relationship with him, but the problem is that he wants his child to grow up closer to his own family who lives in another city, rather than his ex-wife's family. Another commenter says, I mean, personally, I can't think of anything my kid would do that would cause me to cut her off permanently, but I would probably take a break for a while to organize my feelings. There is 10,000% nothing that could happen that would make me willing to cut off my grandkid. What Chloe did was unforgivable, but I would ask you, how would you feel if something happened to Chloe right now? How would you feel? If you don't feel anything, then you have your answer about what you want to do. And the OP responds by saying, it depends on what happens to her. If she is struggling with her mental health or got into an accident, I would obviously help her like a mother would. I admit, I might have been harsh when I told her for the foreseeable future, but I was thinking of my daughter Emma and how she would be feeling right now. I love both my daughters equally from the moon and back, but I am just torn in this decision. Another commenter says, not the asshole. You have a daughter that has been completely destroyed by her own sister and her husband. She's the one that needs your support, not the one that chose to cheat on her husband with her own sister's husband. She made the conscious decision for 4 years. That's not forgivable in my eyes. She made the decision. She can face her own consequences. I'm sure her soon-to-be ex-husband will allow you to be a part of your grandson's life. Reach out to him and let him know you are not speaking to her, and just be there for Emma and her kids. And the OP responds by saying, thank you so much. I have reached out to him but haven't heard anything back yet. The OP responded to a long comment by saying, she might not. Her ex-husband wants to move far away from all this. He wants to move to his own side of the family, which lives in a different city. It would be hard for Chloe to be there for her son unless she moves with him or gets an apartment there, which I don't think she would unless she really wants to see her son. A Redditor responded to that by saying, so she would rather lose her son than move to be near him? There is nothing on this earth that would have prevented me from fighting tooth and nail to keep my kids. How far away is his family? She can absolutely file for an emergency stay order to keep the kids locally until custody is settled. And wronged by her or not, most courts will put the children's needs first. Courts tend to prioritize joint custody regardless of what dad or mom thinks, unless one parent is willing to sign rights away. She needs a lawyer ASAP. If she is willing to walk away from her son without a fight, then he is better off without her. And that tells me a little bit more of her character, and it makes me even less sympathetic to her than I already was. And the OP responds by saying, we are in Florida and his family is in Washington. And after 3 days, the OP comes back with an update, so let's get into it. I know it's very early for me to post an update, and I wasn't planning on it. But after reading the comments on my first post, I decided I needed one final conversation with Chloe before I completely closed the door. I went to her house yesterday and I expected her to be emotional after calling me 82 times in one day, but she was surprisingly calm. I asked her the one question I still couldn't understand. Why? She admitted she'd been attracted to Emma's husband for years. She said what started as admiration eventually became feelings, and over time, they crossed the line. Instead of ending it, they kept convincing themselves it would be the last time. She insisted she regretted everything. I asked if she'd spoken to Emma. She told me the only contact she had was one text before Emma blocked her on everything. Emma told her she'd destroyed their family, taken away her children's stable home, and that she'd hoped the affair had been worth losing a sister forever because as far as she was concerned, Chloe no longer had one. Emma blocked her immediately afterward. Chloe also admitted later she waited outside the school gates hoping to speak to Emma when she came to collect the kids. Emma refused to speak to her and warned her to stay away from her and the children and told her that if she ever approached them again, she'd regret it. Chloe left crying. I told Chloe her waiting outside the school was completely inappropriate, regardless of her intentions. She insisted she only wanted to apologize and prove she cared about Emma. I then asked if she truly felt remorse. That's when I completely lost my patience. Instead of taking full responsibility, Chloe started telling me Emma's marriage had been already falling apart, that Emma and her husband had been drifting apart for years, and that he often confided in her. She admitted the affair was wrong, but completely tried to place part of the blame on Emma, saying if their marriage had been happier, none of this would have happened. I was furious. I honestly couldn't believe that I had raised someone capable of thinking like that. I told her there is no marriage bad enough to justify secretly sleeping with your sister's husband. For 4 years. I told her I wasn't just disappointed. I was ashamed that she was my daughter. The more she tried to justify herself, the angrier I became. The conversation eventually turned to her own divorce. She talked about how difficult everything had been for her and how her husband still plans to move to Washington with their son to be closer to his family. She said she may have to move there too if she wants to stay close to him. As she spoke, I realized almost everything was about what she had lost. Her marriage, her home, her reputation, and possibly seeing her son every day. Very little of it was about Emma or the damage she caused. At the end of the conversation, Chloe asked if we were cool now. I told her no, we were not cool, and we might never be. I said that if I ever found it in my heart to reconcile with her, it would be on my terms and in my own time, not because she thought one conversation could erase 4 years of lies and betrayal. I walked out feeling angrier than when I arrived. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I love both of my daughters, but after that conversation, I'm not convinced Chloe truly understands the pain she's caused. Getting into comments on this update, someone says, "Why does the other woman always believe the my marriage is falling apart and I'm not actually close to my wife bullshit every single time? We all know this man would have happily remained in his marriage with his side chick sister-in-law if Emma didn't find him out. Hell, he's probably begging Emma in the text to give him another chance and that Chloe means nothing to him. Tale is old as time, but the women keep falling for it. Baffling." And the OP responds by saying, "I'm pretty sure there might be a final part 3. I'm not sure how many parts I can keep making before Reddit says otherwise." Emma and her husband did have some problems, but they were mostly, if not always, minor and nothing serious. I am still trying to process how this was going on for 4 years without anyone knowing. Another Redditor says, "Not the asshole," and also says, "Not sure how old your grandson is, but your sister-in-law definitely needs to do a DNA test." And the OP responds by saying, "My grandson is 5. And the OP responded to a comment by saying, "My husband passed about 7 years ago, but when he was alive, he did give Chloe special treatment because she was the baby of the family. I treated both my daughters equally, and we often had fights about Chloe due to unfairness and etc. He would do things like make Emma share what was supposed to be hers and give half to Chloe, give Chloe bigger or better items because he didn't want to upset her. We did divorce later on due to something else unrelated, but that did play a huge part. I did try my best to be fair to both my kids, and I genuinely think I was. I'm not trying to blame my late husband here, I'm just saying what he was like." 17 days from the last post, the OP comes back with an update by saying, "Final update. I said after my last update that I'd come back one last time after things had settled down a bit, so this will be my final post. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my last 2 posts. I read and replied to more comments than I expected. Some of them were difficult to read, but they gave me a lot to think about. To answer the question I saw the most, Chloe's son is definitely her husband's. Chloe is white, her husband is black. and their son is mixed race, so there was never any question about that. The divorces are still going ahead. Nothing has been finalized yet, but neither couple is trying to work things out anymore. A lot of people also asked about my sisters. Yes, they knew about the affair before Emma found out. They admitted they stayed quiet because they thought it was a family matter and hoped it would end before anyone got hurt. I understand why they thought that, but I can't agree with it. Emma spent years being lied to while people around her knew the truth. I've decided to cut both of my sisters out of my life. I don't know if that will be forever, but they have broken my trust. Over the last few weeks, I've spoken to both of my daughters separately. I asked Emma if enough time had passed for her to even think about talking to Chloe. She said no. She told me she isn't waking up angry anymore, but that doesn't mean she's forgiven her. She said she accepted that the truth was always going to come out eventually. The only thing she could control was what she did after she found out. She also said she has no interest in having a sister anymore. As for her husband, she told me she's made one thing very clear. She'll only respond if it's about the children or the divorce. Everything else gets ignored. What surprised me was that he hasn't stopped trying. He sent long apology messages, videos about forgiveness, and even Bible verses. None of us are religious, so that confused all of us. He keeps saying she was the only woman he's ever loved and that he made one terrible mistake. Emma hasn't replied to any of those messages. I also found out something Chloe never told me. In my last update, I said Chloe told me the only message Emma sent before blocking her was that she was no longer her sister. That wasn't true. Emma later showed me the messages. Before Emma sent that final text, Chloe had blamed her for what happened. She told Emma that maybe if she'd paid more attention to her marriage, things would have been different. She also said that if her husband had felt happier at home, he wouldn't have looked somewhere else. Reading those messages made me feel sick. When I confronted Chloe, she admitted she'd sent them. She said she was angry, desperate, and trying to make herself feel less guilty. She told me she regretted sending them almost immediately, but by then, Emma had already blocked her. Chloe also told me that she's moving to Washington once everything is finalized so she can stay close to her son. But in Florida, they allow divorced families to stay, so I don't know why his father is planning to move there to be closer to his family, and Chloe doesn't want to be too far away from her child. She admitted she tried contacting Emma's husband after everything came out, but he never answered any of her messages. She eventually stopped trying. She also told me she knows she'll never get her old life back, but she hopes moving will give her a chance to start over. I told her that starting over doesn't erase what happened, and she agreed. A lot of people asked if I've forgiven Chloe, and I haven't. I still love her because she's my daughter, but I don't trust her anymore, and right now, we don't have a relationship. Maybe that changes one day. Maybe it doesn't. I honestly don't know. This whole situation has changed our family forever. Emma lost her husband and her sister. Chloe lost her marriage, her relationship with her sister, and most of her family. My sisters lost me because they chose to stay quiet. This will be my last update. I hope one day all of us can find some peace, even if we never become a family again. If I missed out some details, I will respond in the comments. Thank you, Reddit. And most of the comments on that final response are overwhelmingly positive. Basically on the OP side, saying she's not the asshole. Basically saying that Chloe is a terrible person and that she lost her marriage, her relationship with her sister, and most of her family. No, Chloe threw away her marriage and her relationship with her sister, and I have to agree. I mean, Chloe seems like honestly like a terrible person. Just, wow, this story has blown me away. Completely crazy, wow. I'm happy to see the girls from my high school getting fat in adulthood. By user every section 509. I was a fat kid in middle and high school, and there was that one group of girls, the cross country and track girls, who were all friends, student council, prom court, all were in great shape, and were kind of bitches to me because of my weight and appearance. Majority of them joined sororities in college and went to either Cali or Hawaii schools. Very mainstream mean girl types. Fast forward 1 year post-college graduation, I pulled myself together and changed my lifestyle, lost 40 pounds, moved across the country, have my own place, and a solid job. I opened Facebook for the first time in forever, and I see a photo of one of the aforementioned girls post. She is fat. Now I'm reminded of the other girls as well, and search them up. And the majority of them are quite overweight. One of them very much so. It's a shocker, and also kind of validating in a karmic way. I am happy they are seeing the other side of what their words were targeted at. I wonder how they got there, and how they were doing with this change in lifestyle. I know I feel a lot happier after going through my weight loss journey. I hope they realize how unkind they were now that they are on the other side of things. Someone comments down below saying, "Shade food is one hell of a drug, but I get it. Some wounds don't heal easy. Just make sure you're not checking their profiles every week now. That way lies madness." And the OP responds by saying, "Oh yeah, no. This is just one of those off rabbit hole of, I wonder how they're doing now. Also, I'd never heard of shade food before." Someone else comments down below by saying, "Enjoy it, OP, because sooner or later, they'll be leveraging GLPs." I ruined a marriage over unpaid babysitting by user Velvet's Dreams. I used to babysit for a couple whose husband was always away on business trips. The wife was cheating and constantly came home late, completely ignoring my extra hours and refusing to pay me. The final straw was when she was 3 hours late and stiffed me on the spot, again. The next time she had her side guy come over, I snapped a clear picture of them together. I texted it directly to her husband with a note. Quote, "Since I'm not getting paid, thought you should see what she's busy doing." Their marriage ended shortly after that, and I consider my debt fully settled. One Redditor comments by saying, "Never feel bad for that. You didn't ruin the marriage, she did. You just handed him the mirror." And the OP responds by saying, "That's how I try to look at it now. The truth was going to come out eventually." Someone else responds by saying, "You menace. I'm here for it." OP responds by saying, "Someone's got to keep things interesting." The same Redditor responds by saying, "I caught my then husband cheating on me with my then best friend. They were doing it at work. Caregivers for developmentally disabled adults ratted them out, and they can't work as caregivers anymore. So yeah, your shenanigans are absolutely praised by me, LMAO." And the OP responds by saying, "They definitely earned those consequences." I think my girlfriend is still in love with her ex by user NoAccount2717. Hey Reddit, I don't know formatting or anything like that, so please excuse this. I'm 21 male, and I don't know where to go or who to go to anymore. My girlfriend 22 and I have been together for a couple of months. Well, last week we got into an argument because I was unhappy with how she has been treating me lately. She'll go and be incredibly rude to me, talking down to me emotionally and physically shutting off. I tried to address it with her in a respectful and kind way, while she blows up at me and tells me we have only been together for a few months and you need to leave me because I'm not a good person and I'm not someone who can be loved. You want some things from me that I can't give. The day before this, she was telling me how she wants to spend forever with me and we looked at wedding rings, quote, her idea. She tells me I'm the man she's always dreamed of and I have all the right attributes she looks for. I think I'm doing it right and she flips. One moment I'm everything she wants, the next she's angry and mean to me. Well, the night of the argument, I go back to my parents' house to get something, and when I come back, she's drunk on her car. Quote, "We don't live together, but we live near each other." I talk to her and she cries in my arms. I take her to my apartment. It's next door to hers. And she is bawling about how happy she was with her ex, and she is looking at her old pictures. I ask her if she's happy with me, and she says yes, and that she wants me but is scared I'll do her like he did. She always shuts down when she thinks of him, no matter what I do. I took care of her all night and day. I do that a lot for her. And it didn't matter, I just got back from vacation and nothing's different. I'll be honest, Reddit, I have my own problems, and one of them is I just want to be loved. I've never felt loved by anyone other than God. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it all. I've been to therapy and 2 psychiatric hospitals for attempting to kill myself. The problems never go away, no matter where I go. I'm always being there for others, but have no one myself. I'm tired, Reddit, and I'm done. And a Redditor comments on this post by saying, "Brother, Stop apologizing for wanting to be loved. That's not weakness. That's being human. But don't confuse loving someone with carrying them. Read your own story. You addressed a problem respectfully. She blew up. She told you to leave. Then she got drunk, cried over her ex, and you were the one holding her together. You became her caretaker while she was emotionally somewhere else. Listen carefully. You are not competing with her ex. You're competing with a version of her life that only exists in her memories. You can't win that fight because it isn't yours to fight. Loving someone doesn't mean accepting disrespect. If someone talks down to you, shuts you out, and then tells you they can't give you what you need, believe them. Don't spend months trying to prove you're worthy to someone who already admitted they aren't in a place to love you the way you deserve. You sound like a man who gives everything to everyone else. That's admirable. But if you keep doing that without expecting respect in return, people will mistake your kindness for permission to treat you however they want. Raise your standards. You're 21. Don't build your identity around being the guy who fixes broken people. Build your identity around being the guy who has enough self-respect to walk away when someone consistently shows they aren't ready for a healthy relationship. And one more thing. You said you've attempted suicide before and that you're tired. Your life is worth far more than the outcome of this relationship. If those thoughts are coming back, don't fight them alone. Reach out to someone you trust, your therapist, or a crisis service immediately. There are people who genuinely want to help you through this. Remember this. A woman choosing someone else, missing an ex, or not being emotionally available does not determine your value as a man. Your value existed before you met her, and it'd still be there if this relationship ends. Don't beg for love. Build a life that reflects your own worth, and let the right people meet you there. The OP responds by saying, "Thank you. It's hard to walk away because I don't want to. When it's good, it's great, but times like these hurt, and I no longer have anyone to reach out to. I lost my grandma 2 months ago, and she was my go-to. I've been used by a lot of people. It's why I came here. I'm trying, and I appreciate you, man." I tried to get my mom to lose custody of my siblings for years, and no one knows the lengths I went to. By Commercial Object 625. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I, 19 male, have not had the best of relationships with my mom in about 7 years now, and we always argue and fall out whenever we talk. Quote, now I'm no contact for a year. But this story doesn't start recently. It started 7 years ago when we first fell out. When we first stopped talking, however, I told people at school she was drinking and doing drugs instead of looking after me and my sister. Not a lie. I didn't do it to help my sister, but to spite my mom, knowing she would have to act like a decent person for a little bit. I was wrong. She was good for 2 days, then straight back up to it. So I took more risks photographing the drugs, filmed her taking them, and even kept the mass amount of empty alcohol bottles. I alerted social services anonymously, and no one ever came to check it out. A few years later, about 2022, I believe we had a massive falling out when my brother was first born as he showed withdrawal symptoms from birth. I called social services again this time, not anonymous, and they investigated but found she wasn't harming my siblings. For the first few months of my brother's life, I raised him, and when my mom got a sketchy boyfriend, I called social services again. Again, anonymous. This time they did do something, as this man was not allowed around kids, due to an ongoing legal case at the time. However, this did not stop my mom having him around. I reported it for 3 months before he went to jail for offenses against a child around the age of my brother. I lost it at her, as it's one in a long line of bad boyfriends, and we got in a heated argument where I admitted I called them feeling something was off, which split our family completely. Later on, I found out she had my cousin, who was a convicted pedo around minors he wasn't supposed to be around, so I reported him to the police. Quote, he got arrested for it, and her to social services. I hear off people she is still using, so I log it and intend to get her to be proved and get my siblings taken off her. But this isn't to save my siblings. It's to spite her for not being a mom, for failing, and for ruining most of my life. If I get any comments, I will answer any questions, judge as harsh as you want. One Redditor comments here by saying, I don't know if you know this, but anonymous tips to social services only work if they get 3 separate calls. I was told this by a caseworker when I called anonymously on my sister. It's actually pretty hard to have your kids taken from you. You say mum, so maybe you're not in the States? How old are you and your siblings? What's your end game? For them to end up and emancipate them out of the foster care system? Do you want to adopt them? Another commenter says, JC, that's a lot to unpack. People might give you shit for the motivation, but honestly, who cares why you did it? You kept those kids safer than their own mother was managing to. The fact that social services kept dropping the ball is the real nightmare here. A bit about your cousin made my stomach turn. You probably saved some other kids too without even meaning to. I stole my coworker's lunch every Friday for 3 months by user Viscerin Drake 23. I know how bad this sounds and I feel terrible about it now. Last year, I was going through a rough patch financially, but I was too proud to admit it to anyone at work. Every Friday, this guy from accounting would bring in these really nice homemade meals, like proper containers with pasta or stir fry or whatever. He'd put them in a shared fridge, and I noticed he always left around 1 p.m. for some standing appointment. I started taking his lunch right before he'd come back, just on Fridays. I did it in my car and throw away the container in the dumpster outside. He never said anything publicly, but I saw him looking confused a few times, and once he sent an email to the whole floor asking if anyone had seen his food. I never responded. The worst part is he eventually stopped bringing lunch on Fridays altogether. He probably thought someone was messing with him, or maybe he just gave up. I had convinced myself it wasn't a big deal because he could afford to buy something else, but that was the garbage excuse. I was stealing from someone who did nothing wrong, and I kept doing it because it was easy. I'm in a better place now, and it's been eating at me for a few months. I want to apologize, but I have no idea how or to even start that conversation without making anything weird or getting fired. I just needed to say this somewhere because the guilt has been sitting heavy, and I know I was completely in the wrong. A couple Redditors comment on this post. One says, "This happened to me too. I had to start bringing shitty microwave noodles and keeping them at my desk just to have any food at all during my 12-hour shifts." Someone commented down below that saying $10 for a lunch cooler with ice packs. Someone else comments by saying, "This is as low as they can go. It destroys a person's trust, it messes with their money and time, maybe crucial dietary needs get missed. Anyone who would just keep doing this until food stops showing up should have some idea how evil they are. They don't care. Oh my F." And someone responded to that by saying, "It's not only food. He even destroyed the perfectly good food containers. I have a favorite food container. I would be pissed if someone stole not only my food, but the container too. Honestly, I would just apologize. Own up to it. I mean, you did it. You stole it. You are a food thief. And, he could have gone without eating. He might not have had the financial stability that you thought he had whenever you stole it. So he could have been going without food as well. And that's honestly pretty terrible. I would be mad as hell. Now, would I forgive you? Maybe. I don't know. I've never really been in this situation before. But yeah, just own up to it and apologize. Someone else commented down below on this post saying maybe they should have put laxatives in the food. That way they'd know who it was. But someone else commented saying if he did that, that'd technically be poisoning them and he could get in trouble. They could sue for that. Which I guess I could see that happening in today's world, but honestly, how would they know there's laxatives in it if they didn't steal it? My landlord may have seen my fleshlight when she went into my apartment in my absence, by user Holiday Implement 3108. For the context, I've had issues with the internet of my apartment, including the rent, and my landlord told me she would fix it 1 week ago. I had a day off today and I went out for 30 minutes to buy some food, but when I came back, I saw the door of my apartment was wide open. I went into the office of my landlord, located right next to the apartment, and she told me I must not have seen the message she had sent me. I had forgotten my phone in the apartment, and when I went out, she had called and texted me right after I left 30 minutes beforehand. Thing is, I had left my flashlight out in the bathroom thinking that I would have no visitors today. I felt immensely ashamed and also annoyed that they, quote, landlord and her husband, might have seen it when they went inside, as the door of the bathroom was slightly open and they might have done a random check inside, quote, in which case they obviously would have seen it. I did text her afterward. I could have walked into the office, but I felt like killing myself. That I didn't appreciate them coming into my apartment like that, and I didn't know what she saw. leaving it obviously enough if she saw it. And I would have wished she had warned me earlier. She did call and text me, but 20 minutes only before entering and without waiting for my approval. She apologized and told me she had to get it done today because she'll be out of town tomorrow morning, and she couldn't fix the issue the week before because they had a water-related problem to fix in their office. She told me she didn't pay attention to the apartment when she went in. So maybe it's because I was mortified that I imagined they were being awkward when I saw them. Or maybe they really were awkward because they saw my effing sex toy in the bathroom. Either way, my day is ruined and my disappointment is immeasurable. One of the top comments on this post starts out like this, and it makes me nervous if I ever have a landlord again, as well as a maintenance man. But they say, "I'm a former maintenance man. I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but honestly, we used to love finding toys. Why? Cheap laughs during shitty days, LOL. Dildos still stuck to the shower walls, douches left out for all to see, giant jars of Vaseline sitting on the bed, gay porn DVD collections on the shelves in the living room like they're family movies, spots in the living room set up for shooting, quote, content. We used to get plenty of laughs from stuff like that. Keeps the day fun and honestly makes me think they were way cooler people. My favorite was when a woman called about hearing rats in the walls. We traced the noise to the bedroom, then to the bed, then to the nightstand, and discovered that it was her vibrator rattling around in the nightstand drawer. She was mortified, but we thought it was hilarious. Oh my gosh. Y'all can do whatever y'all want, and be as open or private as y'all want to be. But if you decide not to care about hiding your stuff, most of us don't care, and we'll probably get a kick out of it. Nothing mean-spirited, of course. It's just that after being in an attic or a space not even big enough for my foot to be in is pretty miserable, and seeing a random dildo can brighten the mood just a bit. LOL. A couple other comments basically had the same sentiment, basically saying as long as you pay your rent and don't do anything illegal in the unit, the vast majority of landlords won't care. It's literally no big deal. Another one says, literally nothing you can do about it. Also nothing wrong with having one. I'd probably give it a, oops, hope they didn't see that, laugh and forget. I'm pregnant and I found out my boyfriend is gay. By user content scarcity 3887. So I have an 8-year-old. I'm 28. I am very happy with her. I share custody with her dad and things are finally going smoothly and she is a happy, brilliant child. I've always been happy to have one, and done. Adamant even. I have a boyfriend. We've been together for a year. I wouldn't say we have much of a connection, but whenever I've tried to leave, he guilts me and cries and I pitifully stay. We don't live together, and he isn't involved with my daughter. Our relationship is mostly just going out for food, watching movies, and having someone to call occasionally. We don't sleep together often, which is all from his side. He never seemed too interested in anything with me. We spoke about it, and he just said he's always tired with a low libido. It's complicated, but due to other factors, I am currently out of work and can't get back in until I've moved house, which is long in itself. Currently in temporary accommodation, a one bed with my kid, so money is low, and home life isn't great due to no space and in a shit area. I recently enrolled to university due to be starting in September. I was excited for the change and hopeful that this would improve my future career aspects even further, so when my daughter is a teenager, I'd be a high earner. I finally passed my driving test and got a car this year, which has been a huge weight off my shoulders but doesn't solve all my problems, just the travel issues. So after finding out I was pregnant, I told my boyfriend. His exes have all had abortions early on with him. I thought this is the route he'd want. Due to me being severely ill and in pain since the pregnancy, I've been in hospital a few times and found there are complications, so I've had to have scans. He saw the scan and started to cry, stating he, quote, definitely wants the kid now, and if you kill this baby now, I'll be gutted. His words threw me as we had been discussing abortion and even booked one for the greater good. We're broke. Nowhere stable to live. I'd be in agony for the entire pregnancy, and I just don't think we should raise a kid together. I've been panicking since finding out I'm pregnant. He pressured me into canceling the abortion I had booked as it was the very next day after the scan, and he said, we need time to discuss this. I immediately regretted doing so. I opened his phone, which I rarely do. I wasn't intending to snoop. I was genuinely looking for a Reddit forum we'd visited together discussing pregnancies/babies. All the forums, his homepage was full of gay content. I'm talking gay porn in every niche category, gay discussion pages, gay meme pages. His Reddit was flooded with gay, quote, not bi pages. I tried to reason with myself that he was just curious, but he seemed to have been interacting for a while. After a couple of minutes looking, I decided I didn't want to snoop too much and asked him outright about it. Initially, he denied everything. Then he stated it's just when he's on a night out, drunk and taking drugs, when he looks at gay porn, and he doesn't have sober thoughts. I kept pushing, and eventually he admitted that he thinks he's gay, not bisexual, that he's slept with probably 7 men and only a few since dating me. So he's been cheating the whole time. Said when he's drunk, he rushes home to get on gay chat sites and cosplays as a woman, sometimes. He likes to dress up as a girl and he's a bottom, all his words. Then proceeded to tell me he's only gay when inebriated. He barely thinks about men sober, and that he's in love with me. Quote, something he never says, by the way. And he wants to raise a child with me, crying and begging me to stay with him with promises to do everything for me forever, and that he'll pay for everything for me. Just please stay, and he will never do the gay stuff again. He begged for a chance to prove it, saying if he doesn't get drunk or take the drugs, he won't think of these things and won't cheat again. It was a lot to take in. I didn't see him for a few days, but we had a wedding coming up and he was the groomsman. I had everything ready and paid for, and the other people were relying on me to drive them there and back, so I agreed to come to the wedding. He ends up drinking and taking drugs, then following me back to my hotel I'd booked separately. He said he had a surprise for me. He came in wearing my dress and asking if I was into it. Just to clarify, I haven't shamed him about sexuality or kinks. Honestly, it sounds like bullshit typing this. I am still in shock. I obviously have to abort. I can't have him as the father of my child. More so because of his amazing ability to lie and cover things up so easily, to cheat, and also external factors like finances, lack of love between us, etc. I don't even know what I'm asking here or looking for. I've tried to confide in friends about some of the topics, but I can't bring myself to say it all out loud. I feel like the biggest idiot, and the fact that I'm pregnant by him just makes this all so much worse. He was willing to hide this forever and have me raise a child with him. I'm so hurt and angry and confused. Some Redditors comment by saying, 1, add a restraining order. Another says, abortion seems to be the best route. It would be cruel to bring a baby into this situation, and it wouldn't be fair to your daughter. Get away from this man. Block him and don't look back. Do you really want to share 50-50 custody with someone unstable who does drugs and drinks excessively? Your baby wouldn't be safe with him. Another person says, run, get out of this damaging relationship, save yourself and your daughter. You know he's manipulative and gaslighting and will not be fit to be a father. You don't want him tied to you. Look for the Aunties network. They are exactly the type of people you want in your pocket in this type of situation. Aunties tend to live in blue states if you need to plan an urgent vacation. Someone else commented saying, sounds like a whole bunch of me on his end. Since you have complications and are, I'm assuming, high risk, just tell him you miscarried from the stress he put you in and leave. Finding out you lied and cheated on me sucked and I'm done. You deserve someone attracted to you, who likes your kid, and doesn't use you as surrogate while they cheat on you. The OP comes back with a response to other comments saying, thank you for your replies. I really needed some brutal honesty. Just for the record, I have money, but currently not enough of an income to support another child. And obviously, I'm moving house in the next few months and getting back into my stable career line and into university on the side. To the people saying I should give up my 8-year-old, please F off. She is very well taken care of, and I do have the funds to support myself and her just fine. I made the point about finances as it would obviously put my career and therefore finances back if I were to have a baby now. I have already had an STD check, a full panel including HIV and AIDS earlier this week, and of course, I won't be touching him again. Thanks for the advice on this though. I absolutely agree that since he pressured me to stop using condoms, I was told I likely have secondary infertility due to health issues I won't dive into. I highly doubt he uses them elsewhere when meeting strangers from the internet. I was struggling with just going ahead with the abortion as my hormones were all over the place and I am maternal. But it helped a lot hearing people say it brutally and it snapped me back into reality. Thank you. I will be keeping my appointment, which is scheduled for in 2 weeks' time. Despite any fears, I will go ahead with this. I'll make sure all ties are cut with him. Thank you for the advice and the people who weren't attacking me. I know I'm in a ridiculous situation. It didn't seem so menacing when it was just nice dates and a guy who I thought was into me, genuine, and just a little reserved. Guess I know why he wasn't much of an open book now. I survived cancer only to find that my husband of 11 years never loved me, by user extension Lake 4065. I've been with my husband for 11 years now. We have 2 beautiful children. All this time, I thought we were each other's soulmates and that nothing else could ever come between us. He helped me get through the worst time of my life when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, where he was always assured me that we'll get through the whole ordeal together. I believed him as our family slowly got over my medical woes. However, I recently learned that after all this time, he was praying for the cancer to spread far enough to kill me. I discovered this all on my own after I found out that he had a spare phone hidden under our bed when I was changing the sheets. It was an older keypad model. It didn't even have the capability to install apps, I think. Something felt off, so I took it with me before confronting him. When I asked him about it, he denied that it was his, even though he'd rushed upstairs looking for it. So I took the kids, went to my sister's house, we were in the same neighborhood, and started reading the text messages. The only number I ever saved was the name of a fling he had before we got together. This woman went to the same high school as us. They reconnected about 5 years into our marriage and never stopped talking, despite her being in a relationship after I looked her up on Facebook. Typing and recalling all this is making my heart ache all over again. He told her that if the cancer ever does come back, they can finally be together. I kept scrolling down and realized that they were secretly texting each other for about 5 years. My husband's always been stoic, and he's never been one to overly show emotions and all that. And here he was texting her, "Good morning," and "I love you" messages. In one of the texts, he blamed me for wasting a decade of his life. He also said in the text that he only stuck with me because of our children. I'm thinking of getting a divorce, but it's looked down upon in our country. And to make it worse, he's been threatening me and accused me of stealing his phone. And the worst of all is that I have no idea how I'm going to break the news to my children. Getting into the comments, a Redditor says, "I'm sorry, you didn't deserve this. You beat cancer, so you can beat a heartbreaking divorce too. Remember that, okay?" Another says, "I'm sure that regardless of where you are living, you can submit that phone as proof of infidelity. Do it fast before he can pull something else on you. Please think about yourself before your kids. Stay strong. You got through cancer. You can pull through this." My due date is next week. I'm sure I'm going to die. By user Finny Stardust. I'm 35 weeks pregnant, and it feels like everything has gone wrong since the very beginning. I experienced vanishing twin syndrome, which devastated both my husband and me emotionally, though we tried to stay positive for the baby who is still with us. But then I was diagnosed with total placenta previa and a possible risk of placenta accretia. The doctors can't understand how this happened, since it's my first pregnancy and I've never had any uterine procedures. I was essentially turned away by the hospital that was originally handling my case because they considered it too complex. I'm currently admitted to a good facility, but the truth is, I can't picture a future where I get to go home with my baby and my husband. I still hope for a healthy baby, but I feel like I won't be around to watch him grow up. I don't know what to do. I think I just needed to get this off my chest. And the OP comes back with an update by saying, "Hello everyone. The delivery was really difficult, but luckily everything turned out fine in the end. I had a hemorrhage, but the doctors managed to save my uterus and I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. I'm still a bit traumatized by everything that happened during the pregnancy, and recovery hasn't been easy, but I feel it was worth it, because I love my son so much and I want to be here to protect him and watch him grow. Thank you to everyone who sent me advice and positive messages." A Redditor commented down below asking the OP, "Hey OP, are you doing okay?" And the OP responds by saying, "The delivery was complicated, but the baby and I are doing well. My stepdad is going to prison for the rest of his life, and I couldn't be happier." By user Resident Evil. Basically that. My stepdad is going to prison, presumably dying there, and I'm literally ecstatic. For context, my 15 male mom, 54 female, met this dude who's 53 male, who we'll call Johnny. Johnny got out of prison for multiple domestic assault and drug-related charges in about 2020. He lived with his mom for about a year and then immediately moved in with us after talking to my mom for just a few months. Immediately once moving in, he began shifting all the financial decisions toward himself. involving my mom with his personal business and making big financial decisions, buying trailers and other large equipment for, quote, their business. And all around being incredibly controlling. He talked my mom into buying a large air conditioning unit for the garage that we didn't need and that we couldn't afford, repeating, "I'll pay for it, baby, don't worry." It's not hard to guess that he didn't pay for it. He's left my mom with unbelievable amounts of debt. Even bought the 2 properties next door to us in his name for, quote, business reasons. But he only did it so that it would be harder to get rid of him. Very shortly after getting us financially tied up with him, he starts letting his true colors show, I suppose. He starts being verbally, emotionally, and in some cases physically abusive towards me and my mother. Constantly degrading me, calling me names, and the same thing went for my mom. My life has been hell, and I've been diagnosed with MADD, or mixed anxiety depressive disorder, because of him. And that's where the drug problem started. Apparently he wasn't done with his meth addiction once he got out of prison because he brought it around my mother and me. What the hell, dude, great role model, LOL. Whom he knows is susceptible to drug addiction because of her past. She's been sober for 20 years, but that doesn't change the fact that she's still a recovering addict. While over on his property next door, he had been doing and selling meth with his friends and constantly cheating on my mom with strippers, prostitutes, escorts, and all other kind of skanked out hoes. Please excuse my Haitian Creole. He's repeatedly come into my room just to smash my shit and threatened to beat me for no reason in meth-fueled rages, keyed my mom's car, and he's even taking my electric bike, my only form of transportation to work, and thrown it off the side of a highway bridge because of something my mom said that upset him. All around a terrible, meth-addicted, textbook, narcissistic person. Well, recently he's been charged with possession and trafficking of methamphetamine and going to prison for the rest of his life, where presumably he'll die there. Once I heard about that, I thought it was great news, but the rest of my family doesn't exactly see it that way. Apparently they've given him so much financial support and leeway with how he acts because he has brain damage. He got into a motorcycle accident like 25 to 30 years ago that left him in a week-long coma. They think it's changed him to be a different person than who he truly is. But I've looked at the guy's criminal history and he has charges and arrests going all the way back to when he was a teenager for the same shit he's been doing his entire life. Assault and drugs. I feel so alone in that I can't share my feelings with anybody. I'm going to be stuck in a household that's grieving the loss of somebody who was genuinely ruined this part of my life. I don't know what to do, and I have no one to go to right now. I guess the main upside is that I won't have to deal with him anymore. One Redditor comments by saying, "I know exactly what you mean about those guys. My first husband was a horrible man who used us. When I finally divorced him, there were people who actually asked me how I could divorce such a good man. They have a way of hiding their true selves from people to manipulate them, including you if they can do it. This is what worked for me. Find a time and place where you can be alone and imagine yourself surrounded, be an unbreakable sphere, and tell yourself that he can't cross into your space. No matter what he says or does, he can't get to you anymore. He will still try to engage you, maybe worse, if he feels his control slipping. Your mother might love you, but she is completely helpless. She apparently can't protect herself. How can she protect you? I know it seems like you have nowhere to return to, but believe it or not, there are people who will help you if you are willing to tell them the truth. You are not alone, and don't think that you are." Another commenter says, "I have had trauma that put me in a coma for 2 months. You know what I don't do? I don't yell at or hit my spouse and kid, make financial decisions outside our very carefully planned and mutually designed budget, or sell drugs out of the house next door. I don't ask for money from my spouse's family that I don't intend to pay back. I didn't start a business until I had enough money from my own savings and penny pinching without sacrificing my family's comfort to purchase material and tools myself. You have no reason to feel bad. I'd be so relieved that this guy was gone from my life forever too." And the OP responds by saying, "Good job not being a douche like I was talking about. And thank you, I am. I try to do the right thing, and I'm having nightmares." By user Cosmic Coconut 999. In the early 2000s and 2010s, I was an active person in trapping pedos. I would essentially do the texting part of TCAP. I did it in my free time and felt amazing when I would report an individual to the FBI. It was my small part. My dad was an SVU officer in OSI and kind of led me through the process. I never saw anything but weird, creepy older men and a few females. It is always me, an adult, getting evidence on people who were openly trying to hurt minors. 2 weeks ago, I thought I would try it again since it's become such an issue on various sites. But this time I fully went knowing I was going to find, report, and see their downfall. I was told that X has seen a rise in grooming/CP activity, so I went and made an account. I did what I normally did and set up a face and posture. Soon I had found the buzzwords people had talked about coming across. Common words that you would stumble upon while doing casual scrolling. I also found that X is not the main issue. It's the vehicle for all of this. They are making accounts and posting Telegram chats where things can be sold. You buy a shitty AI pic and it gives you a code. That code is then given as a password, or you request and they give, just like that. It's not even trying to be hidden, and I don't feel like anything is being done about it. Never before in any of my years of doing this had I seen anything explicit with the people I was trying to help. But all of a sudden I was seeing bad things. This wasn't even with clicking any comments or probing any accounts. I was seeing things in comment sections. I was seeing things open on accounts that were not banned. I did what I could and reported what I saw. About 10% were pushed back to me as not an issue. Profile pics of kids doing things, links to sites where you can purchase. They were pushed back to me as not a break in guidelines. I feel like a monster. I saw things I would probably never be able to forget, and I searched for it. I looked for it, although with good intentions, I still looked and saw. I see posts about people accidentally coming across this kind of thing on X. Let me tell you, that's a lie. You need to go to very specific places, use very specific terms to find these things. It's not just prawn words you would use to look up a hot Latina or petite women. I feel so broken and like a shadow of myself after these 2 weeks. I feel dirty. At least with my past experience, I was the one being put through things and I never felt this dirty. It pisses me off and I want to do more, but legitimately, I don't think my heart or my stomach can take it. I want these people to suffer. It's worse than I thought, and I was only digging for 2 weeks. I want to make a group that literally goes after these people, but I don't have it in me. They need to suffer a lot more than I am capable of. The thing that finally broke me was seeing a kid who looked almost exactly like my nephew. Dead eyes being forced to do something so heinous. I know it's not my nephew, but it snapped something in me. I can't look at people the same, let alone kids. I always wonder what if they're being hurt, what if I could help them, if I kept digging and kept reporting. But I didn't. I had to step away from me, but they need help. I'm struggling. Getting into the comments, one Redditor says, "I just want to give you a huge hug." NeoP responds to them by saying, "I appreciate it, but these kids need help. They need the genuine care. I had my childhood at least." The same Redditor responds by saying, "I appreciate you for caring and trying, truly. At the same time, remember that the people need to be specially trained for this kind of work, and they likely have ready access to mental health services to help them sort through the grief and the pain their very brave choice in career brings them. It's not the same as you braving it alone. Take care of yourself, please." I used to bully my disabled brother for years. Originally posted to r/confession. I know this would get a lot of hate, and yes, I deserve it. I'm not looking for any validation or forgiveness. I know I am a piece of human trash, I just need to get this out. I have a brother who is 2 years older than me. He has suffered from a condition since birth that forces him to be in a wheelchair anytime he is out of bed. He cannot use his arms that well either. We used to have a great relationship until I turned 11, and I really started resenting the amount of attention he took from my parents, and how much stress he put them under. I had to constantly help him, change him, feed him. I hated it. There was a few years in his life when he was so mean to my parents, and it made me resent him more. I realize now that I had no right to judge him, and I will never know how difficult life is for him. I stopped hanging out with him and made more friends at school. I would tell my family all the fun I was having at school during dinner to make him feel bad. I started barely talking to him or acknowledge his presence. He would get so frustrated to the point of tears to get my attention. It started escalating 2 years ago, when I would purposely turn off the Wi-Fi and unplug the TV every time we had to leave the house so my brother could do nothing but sit in his wheelchair. I would purposely delete his favorite saved shows in the DVR. I would make fun of his speech, push things out of his reach. I would act disgusted when I had to change or bathe him. It always made him feel bad and he would apologize. I made my own brother apologize for taking a dump. What the F is wrong with me? But my effing saint of a brother never told my parents, and he never let me have it. 3 weeks ago, he was trying to talk to me nonstop, and I was just ignoring him. I got annoyed and wheeled him against his wishes to the backyard and placed him under an umbrella and went inside. I fell asleep and realized I left him out there for 3 hours. When I went to bring him back inside, he was in tears and wouldn't look at me. He was humiliated. I have always felt guilty about how I treated my brother all these years, but my anger towards him overpowered it. But seeing that look on his face affected me in a way that was different from before. I stopped all the bullying after that day. I couldn't even look him in the face. I was so ashamed. Last Sunday, my brother told me he was glad I was his brother and friend. I couldn't even respond. I went to my room and cried. I'm effing crying again typing all this out. When did I become such evil trash of a human being? I'm 17 and he's 19 now. I know there is nothing I can do to make up for the past 6 years. My brother will be returning with my mom from a specialist appointment tonight. I'm going to apologize to him and beg for his forgiveness tonight. I want to start being a effing decent brother to him again. I'm a healthy guy with no issues who chose to bully his only brother for something that wasn't even his fault. I'm so ashamed of myself. And the OP comes back with an edit to his post and says, a lot of people were asking for an update, so here it is. I wrote up a long-ass apology letter that I wanted to read to my brother. I waited until he got home and I got into bed for the night. I knocked on his door and he was so fucking excited that it was me. I couldn't even get through the first few words. I started crying after saying I wanted to say I'm really sorry and just couldn't get through it. I just got into bed with him and laid down next to him. He hugged me really tight and said, I missed you, buddy. I effing lost it. I never cried like that before. He just hugged me for so long until I calmed down. We didn't talk much. He started crying for a bit too. And it was the first time in a long time we just hugged. After half an hour, I got up and gave him a kiss and he told me he was so happy. Why didn't I do this earlier? I thought I could try apologizing properly again tomorrow. I left him the note to read anyway. I'm feeling very hopeful right now and a lot of pressure in my heart is gone. I swear to God, on my own life, I will never treat my brother so badly again. I've been working part-time for the past year, and I was saving some money so my brother and my mom could go on a trip to a place he really wanted to go to. But I think I'll be taking my brother myself instead when I turn 18. I also realized that I need to have a relationship with my brother when I'm not just taking care of him. It needs to be like a normal brother relationship, like going for movies and stuff. It's going to take some time for me to fix the mess I created though. I'm just lucky my brother is amazing. I received a lot of messages. I appreciate everyone for their input, and I did read them all even if I didn't reply. Thanks everyone. One Redditor responds with a long comment by saying, oh son, believe me, I know exactly what you're going through. I'm 6 years older than my brother who has cerebral palsy. He's physically functional, but he has the mental capacity of an 8-year-old kid. Until I was 6, I was a kid with a mother who gave me all the attention in the world. Then he was born. All the attention disappeared, childhood disappeared, and life became real, unkind, and challenging. At 16, my resentment for him was at its peak. I was a hormonal teenager with my own issues, but due to his health and his need, my mother had to devote all her time to him. I wanted for nothing, but for all intents and purposes, I craved attention and love to the point where I full-on hated him. I never showed it as bluntly as you did, but it was there and burning. I came out to my parents when I was 16, and I remember one night after having another round of fighting with my parents and being told some of the worst things a child could ever hear from his parents due to their inability to handle the fact that I was gay. I just went into my room, locked the door, and cried. As I was crying, my brother came into the room, completely oblivious to the goings-on due to his inability to understand what it meant that I was gay. He sat on my bed and watched me cry. Then he put his hand on my leg and asked why I was crying. I attempted to explain to him that I was gay and what it meant, and how our parents were not very happy about it. Then he just said, which I will never forget, but does that mean you're not going to be my brother anymore? Because that would be very sad. I love you. I really do. All the hatred died that day. I realized that to his perpetual child, I would always be the hero big brother who had the responsibility to care for him. And even though it's challenging and he couldn't repay in kind, his method of payment, exactly like your brother, is unending love. It's a rare and precious thing, my friend, to know that you're loved You're still very young, so life hasn't shown you the value of love yet. I know that may seem like me jumping to a conclusion, but after having plowed through a couple more decades than yourself, I now realize it's the most damn important thing in our world. Our lives are much harder than they, quote, should have been, but we live our lives with strength and pride. He will always be challenging, but you will always be his brother, and he will always love you. Edit. Thank you all so much for the gold/silver/platinum/comments of love. Quote, he ain't heavy. He's my brother. My 43 female husband's 46 male affair partner, 19 female, is pregnant and doesn't know the baby's father, and I don't know where to begin fixing this. Originally posted by user 1dragonfly5474 on relationship advice and /advice. Throwaway account. All names are fake to protect mine and my children's identities. A few days ago, my husband of 19 years came to me telling me he wanted us to sit down and talk as he needed to come clean, that he has been having an affair for the past 6 months. He arranged with his mother to have the kids for the night, and she would get them to school in the morning so we could talk in private. He had arranged this with her in the day whilst I was at work. When I arrived home around 6:45 p.m., he was sat in the living room alone, waiting and looking very nervous and quite frankly ill. I was immediately concerned for him and asking where the children were. He couldn't meet my gaze. He reached out for my hands, sat me down again, and quietly announced he was so sorry and he never meant for this to happen, but he had cheated on me. I had no idea how to react. I was still concerned why no one else was home, as they should all have been home hours ago, normally getting back around 4 p.m., and no one had messaged me to ask or say they were out with friends. He started to ramble on, I think trying to explain himself, as if there was any explanation for cheating. I wasn't paying attention, demanding he tell me where our children were. He eventually told me that his mother was looking after them for the night. He asked me to calm down and let him explain himself. I admit I snapped when he said this. How can he expect me to calm down when he's just admitted to breaking our vows? What is there to explain? If he wanted a divorce, he should have just asked me for one months ago. He started to get upset, begging me to please calm down and let him talk. He didn't choose this, but there's more to the story. I was so full of emotions I walked outside and sat in my car. He followed me to the door crying and begging me to listen and please don't go. I sat in my car for I don't know how long, sobbing, thinking of our marriage, our children, and what will happen now. Does this mean divorce? Couples counseling? Can I forgive him? And the biggest question, why? Why did he cheat? And who is she? Why is she better than me? Why is this woman more important than the life we have built together over the last 22 years? After maybe an hour of spiraling and crying, I was ready to hear him out and ask my questions. I knocked on the door, he opened it, reached for my hand, and we sat down again. He tried to lead me upstairs to our bedroom. I said absolutely not. We're talking this through downstairs now, or he can leave for tonight. I didn't know what to expect from what he wanted to tell me. I didn't care for apologies and excuses. He told me the affair had started 6 months ago, but it had just been secret messaging, nothing flirtatious from his side to begin with. Then things escalated. She became more boldly flirtatious, and during a night I was working away, they slept together for the first time. That was supposedly 4 months ago. He hasn't admitted it, so I believe they've been intimate regularly since. I asked why, who, how. So many questions. I didn't give him time to answer as I began to spiral again. He said it was Emily, a name that didn't mean anything to me. I half laughed and said, am I supposed to know who that is? Then he said, James is Emily. James is our 18 male son. Emily, 19 female, is his ex-girlfriend as of 2 months ago. I was so angry in that moment, I shouted for him to get out. I didn't want him anywhere near me. I couldn't stand to look at him or listen to what he had to say next. How would he try and excuse not only having an affair, but with our son's ex, who he was still broken up about? She had broken up with him 2 months prior, which had him very upset as they had a sensible and very positive relationship for over a year. She was fully welcomed into our home, and I was quite fond of her. The whole family had been sad to hear they had broken up, his younger siblings saying how they missed her coming around. I apologize I'm getting away from things. This is still so much to think about and hard to actually put down. My husband told me the reason he was coming clean to me now was that Emily had confided in him 2 weeks ago that she was pregnant, but was unsure as to who the father is. She said it could be him or James. Before I continue, oh my goodness. The whole time reading this, especially that part right there, the kicker, I'm just like, we need to get Mari in on this. Holy cow. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's continue on. He told me he hadn't planned or wanted any of this. He didn't initiate the relationship, and he tried not to get close with her, but he wasn't strong enough mentally, and it just happened. Upon hearing that, I got up and left. I just couldn't stay there listening to him any longer. I drove 30 minutes away and checked into a hotel for the night, turning my phone off. I went into work the next day as normal, returning home to the kids out once again, and him waiting by the door, eyes red, begging me to talk to him. I didn't have the energy to talk or argue. I just walked up to our room, laid in our bed, as he begged me, crying again. I'm not delusional enough to believe anything he says regarding how it was all her initiating the flirting. She's only 19, and he's more than twice her age, for God's sake. He didn't act in this alone, but to try and place all the blame on a teenager is quite frankly pathetic and makes me sick. It has been a few days since, and nothing has resolved. Things are back to normal for the sake of our children. James doesn't know about the affair or possibly pregnancy. They're all back home, and I'm trying to make things appear as normal as possible just until Christmas is out of the way. I don't want this affair to mess or ruin what should be a joyful time of year. I've hardly spoken to my husband since, except for when the children are around. Having to share a bed with him disgusts me. He's tried to cuddle with me and get me to kiss him in front of our children. I feel so much animosity to him. I fear my depression that I struggled with as a teenager will come back. I just want to cry everywhere. My heart is broken, not just for myself, but for our family. I know James needs to know and sooner is better, but I don't know that I can be there for us both right now. How do I even try to figure this out? When is the right time to tell James? I know it's so silly to think that we could keep this a secret until Christmas is over, but I don't have any idea where to start. It just feels like the worst time for all of this. I don't know how I feel regarding everything I know. I'm nowhere near finding a solution or thinking of next steps. I'm mostly concerned for James and the fallout this will have between him and his father and our 2 children. Getting into the comments on this post, one Redditor says, I mean, you know how to fix this. You'd have to leave him. If you're unwilling to leave him, if your standards don't exclude this, then don't waste your time pretending you're prepared to fix anything. When your standards are low enough to include having a relationship with this kind of predatory man, you are as much a part of the problem as he is. If you stay with him, he's right and you're wrong. His assessment is that he can diddle children, and a 19-year-old is a child. They might legally be an adult, but materially they're a child. And that you might huff and puff, but you'll ultimately do nothing about it. And until the moment you leave, that makes him correct about your complicity in his filth. The OP responds by saying, okay, wow, I don't know if the way I have written makes it sound like I'm thinking of staying with him. I'm not thinking that at all. I know we will have to divorce. I'm just lost as to how to go about things in the right order. I'm not condoning his actions in any way. I'm quite honestly repulsed by him. Someone else says, honestly, I think ripping off the bandage now makes more sense. If this comes out by any other means, your son may feel betrayed 3 times over. Especially if he thinks you're covering for your husband, or if he believes you would have stayed if you hadn't found out. I would at least have him leave the house, even if you don't disclose all the details yet. The OP responds by saying, thank you, that's a good idea. Having to be in the same room as him these past couple of days has been so hard on me. I may tell him to go stay elsewhere at night, and we can share some details with my eldest. I would hate for him to feel I betrayed him, and I won't let my husband's actions cause my son and I to feel more pain. Another Redditor says, sending my sympathies to you, James and the other 2 children. Also sending you an Oscar award for your acting skills. You are doing your best in this unreal situation. If you can do it, wait until after Christmas to tell James. Also, is she going to give birth to this baby? And the OP responds by saying, thank you. I have no idea if she's planning on having the baby or not. I think she's waiting to know who the father is and then expect help and support from them. Another person says, I know it's so silly to think that we could keep this secret until Christmas. They say, yeah, especially with the wild card of Emily and how she might take it upon herself to deal with the life she's carrying. I know you probably didn't want to hear it, but from a practical standpoint, any idea where her plan is? I assume it's impacted his confession. And the OP responds by saying, oh God, it hadn't even crossed my mind that she may tell James or show up. I haven't asked how far along she is or know what her plan is. I don't know that she has one. I don't think my husband has a plan for all this either. I feel like I'm trying to figure it all out for everyone. Another Redditor says, wow, I'm so sorry. First of all, I think you should stay out of this in a way. And I mean that in a certain way. You shouldn't have to deal with your son. He has to deal with your son. So you will need to explain to him that he will need to sit his son down and explain to his son that he, as his 46 male dad, slept with his 19 female girlfriends during their relationship, and she now might be pregnant. Don't get tricked into the situation that you need to tell him. Do not get involved in that. Once this has been dealt with, your presumably soon ex-husband will need to talk to your other children and explain these events to them too. He did this, so he can now put his big boy pants on and deal with the consequences. Those consequences are, he will have to face his children explaining this. You will leave him. You will love the shit out of your children and care for them the best you can. You will financially negotiate the absolute effing best financial deal you can get out of him. You will get help for your children if they need dealing with this shit show. If you need help, you will get this too. This is going to be the single hardest thing you have ever done in your life. And as a true mom, you will face this. Look the monster straight into the eyes, and then you will pick it up, throw it away, and build a new life. The OP responded to this by saying, thank you so much for giving me the wake-up call I need. I don't know how I've gotten into thinking that this is on me to fix. I will speak to my husband later today about telling James. I will also be contacting a therapist for myself and James separately and looking into getting a lawyer for a separation. I've always vowed to be the best mom that there is and for her children to be above anything. And after 22 days, the OP gives us another update by saying, this is a small update of what's happened since I made my first post, and I hope everyone can see this. If I haven't done this correctly, please let me know. A little summary of my last post. My husband of 19 years admitted to me that he's been having a 6-month affair with our eldest son's ex-girlfriend. Girlfriend at the time the affair started. Now the update. After I made my post and read so many comments from amazing people, seriously thank you to everyone who validated my feelings and helped me to create a plan of action. That night after my children were in the rooms, I sat down with my husband and told him that I didn't feel comfortable sharing a bed with him anymore and that he needs to come clean to James about what he has done. I told him that I was going to contact a therapist for myself and for James, and as some comments had suggested, I would ask them if they think it's best for James to be told in their company for additional support. My husband didn't have anything to say. He just sat there taking it in. I think that was when he started to realize just how much he messed up. He told me he would be getting a hotel room for the night and staying with family or friends for the time being. I was able to speak to a therapist that Sunday after speaking with my sister about everything. I thought it was best to tell James as soon as possible, as I had now known for a week. My sister took my other 2 kids for the day. They were reluctant to be away again. They knew something was up. I told them that once they came home, I would explain everything to them, and we will be okay. No one is ill, so don't start to worry, and I gave them both a huge hug. With me there, my husband spoke to James, and he told him similar to what he had told me, but without the excuses and begging for forgiveness. James was quiet for a very long time, so my husband went to another room to give us some time alone. I don't want to go into how James was, as that's not for me to talk about, but he was obviously very hurt. We spent a long time talking and consoling each other. James then went for a lie down, and my husband left for a bit. That evening when my sister dropped my younger 2 off at home, their father came back and he explained to them about having an affair and that it was James's ex-girlfriend. We decided not to tell them about the possible pregnancy at this time until paternity is determined, and more is concluded about that. I'm dealing with the affair and possible pregnancy as 2 separate issues. James and I both have gotten STD tests, all negative so far, but awaiting the full results. Concerning the possible pregnancy, I'm only focused on helping James through it, and what my husband chooses to do is his own business. James has contacted Emily regarding a paternity test. He hasn't shared with me his feelings. If the test comes back positive, we are taking things one step at a time. For myself, I am back in therapy, fortunately. I've been able to take some time off work, and I'm focusing on getting through each day and supporting my kids. Once the results for paternity are back, then I can worry about divorcing my husband. I have been to a lawyer for an initial conversation, but I think it's best just to deal with one thing at a time for the sake of my mental health. And for my children, absolutely come first. The only contact I've had with my husband since is him asking about the kids. I think that's everything I have to update on currently. I will update again when I have more to share. Thank you again for everyone who commented on my first post. The only question I have is any advice for divorcing with children involved? I want it to be easy on them as it can be so we can move on from this mess. One Redditor commented on this post by saying, "You are doing great so far. I can't even imagine the toll this is taking on you. Stay in therapy and make sure you are taking care of yourself. You are just as much of a victim in this as your son, and I'm sure you're doing everything you can for him right now. You deserve that for yourself too. As for divorcing in a way that's best for the kids, I'm pretty sure your husband already ruined that effort. Stay supportive and open with your children. While I'm in no way saying condone their father in any regard, try your best not to talk poorly. I mean like name-calling and stuff about him. His actions are as low as you can get, so you can't completely avoid this while talking about what's happening. But you don't have to pile it on, you know? Does this girl's parents know what's going on?" And the OP responds by saying, "I would never badmouth their father to them. That would only cause them more pain. Whatever my kids feel towards their father regarding a relationship with him is their individual decision, and I'll support them as best I can. He will still be their father regardless of our divorce." The OP responded to another comment by saying, "Just to clear it up, I'm not waiting on the paternity results to decide if I'm divorcing or not. I absolutely am going through with the divorce. However, I only have so much mental strength to focus on one thing at a time, and supporting James is my priority." And after almost 5 months, the OP comes back with a final update, starting off by saying, "This is a small second update to my first post, and probably the last. The first update can be found on my profile. Firstly, I want to thank everyone again for the support, helpful comments, and messages, and well wishes for me and my children. Secondly, apologizing for being so long between posts. I've been meaning to update, but I've had a lot to do and focus on staying strong and getting through this difficult time. As I said in the last update, James was awaiting results of paternity. Once he got them back, he was very nervous to read them, and I offered to read them for him, or for him different ideas, but ultimately, he told me he didn't think he was quite ready no matter the result, which I respected. This was a huge ordeal, and the results could affect his life forever from that point. So he put them away somewhere safe until he was ready. Both James and myself were going to therapy and getting support, and I was looking at different options for my other children regarding the divorce and affair. A few weeks later, James came to me and said he wanted to know the results now that he didn't truly feel ready, but he needed to know to be able to further deal with things and progress in his therapy. James is not the father to Emily's baby, but shares DNA due to familial paternity. My husband is the baby's father. This was very difficult for both of us. There was huge relief that he wasn't the father, but also a lot of pain, sadness, and anger. I've been so proud of how James and my other 2 children have dealt with this all over the past few months. Things are still very raw and challenging, but I'm so proud they know none of this was due to them or anything they did, and that we will get through this time together as a family of 4. Right now, I'm awaiting divorce proceedings. I don't know what will happen. I'm mostly concerned for the house and where me and the children will live, but I know for the moment they're all safe, looked after, and loved by me. My youngest is receiving support from his school and is involved with some after-school clubs to ensure he doesn't alienate himself and keep his thoughts and emotions inside. I've seen good improvement in him, and I'm super grateful for his school and their understanding. My middle child has been harder to help given their age. They aren't showing their feelings to me, and therapy isn't their thing. I've been looking at different options for unconventional therapy, ways they can work through their feelings without having to sit and talk to a stranger. They had a few sit-down appointments at the beginning, but I can tell it's not their thing. Any recommendations? Links for things in the UK would be so helpful. As far as things go with me and my husband, he has been living between his mother's home and friends' places. I have very limited contact with him, only ever regarding our younger 2. There have been a couple times where he has messaged me trying to apologize, begging me to forgive him, explaining he didn't mean for this to happen and wasn't his fault, to which I don't reply to or waste my time reading. And for those people that suggested I speak to Emily's parents and tell them about her pregnancy, I did not go over there and speak with them. As young as Emily and James are, they are both adults, and Emily's pregnancy is hers to share with whom she wishes. It's not my place to tell her parents. They do know she did tell them. They sent me a long message expressing their sadness and regret for what happened, as well as James, which I thank them for. Not that any of it is their doing either. It is just unfortunate for us all. Emily is still living at home and is expecting this summer. My husband plans to get a place for the 3 of them after the baby is born. I wish Emily and the baby all the best, but once the divorce is finalized, I don't want any contact or updates regarding them and my ex-husband's lives. Me and my kids will get through this together, stronger, and create a better future. James has hoped to take a gap year next year and go traveling with friends, and I think I might treat his siblings and myself to a trip somewhere too. I think my boyfriend is an SA victim, by user temporary cap 82. My boyfriend had relations with another girl just before we started dating. He was upfront about it as soon as we became official, and I didn't care then, but I recently found out that it happened when we were spending a lot of time together, just days before we confessed. That hurt me a lot. But from everything he's told me, I think he may have been SA'd. He said to her multiple times that he didn't want to do anything but got really drunk and ended up having relations with her. I don't know the details beyond this, as he supposedly can't really remember it and was confused by what happened himself. All he knows is that he regrets it. That sounds like SA, right? He cried during our last conversation and kept repeating, quote, "She didn't R-word me," later saying something about not knowing what, quote, "counts," and couldn't talk about it anymore. He definitely isn't lying, as there are a few things that I've now realized have likely stemmed from the situation, e.g. he refuses to be affectionate at all while we're drunk. Just my hand on his back makes him anxious. I was so conflicted. I still feel hurt by the act, but I know it likely wasn't even his fault. We've already had multiple conversations and it happened almost a year ago. There's nothing that can be done about it now. I never want to be the one to bring it up again. I think my personal feelings are something that will hopefully heal in time. I just can't stop thinking about it and feel like an asshole for not realizing sooner. Not sure what to do from here. Any advice? Getting into the comments on this post, one Redditor says, "That does sound like SA. I don't have any great insight besides not pushing him about how he feels or perceives it, and just being there to support him as he copes with this. Do you think he'd be open to seeing a counselor about it?" Another commenter says, "This does sound like SA. Having coercion and alcohol included definitely isn't an absolute yes, nor valid consent. From his reaction, I believe he's taken a very big hit from it. Trying to get him professional help and talk to him through means of support." Another Redditor comments by saying, "Speaking as someone whose spouse was SA'd by two different people, sadly, I think you're right on the money, OP. I went through a very similar experience when my partner and I were deep talking. The incidents in question, quote, which they were always downplayed in their head, came up, and I had to watch and help them come to the realization in real time that yes, it happened. They said no multiple times. The guys didn't listen. It was what they thought/didn't want to admit was, it's okay to admit it. They did nothing wrong, it's not their fault. The problem is, your BF sounds very close to admitting it to himself, but isn't there yet. You can't push him to the realization, which he likely already knows and is still in denial about. All you can do is gently guide him to the conclusion and support and be there for him when it hits, because when it does, it will be emotional and hard and painful for both of you. But for what it's worth, as harrowing as it was, having a 4-hour-long talk and cry session where I let my partner walk me through everything that happened, less for me and more for them, just retracing their steps and solidifying their memories versus what others told them, / how they warped the events in their mind to make them easier to deal with, was one of the most intimate bonding experiences I have ever had with my spouse, and it brought us so much closer together. Worthwhile to mention, there is a huge stigma against men coming to terms with SA, especially at the hands of a woman. Society tells us that we're so stereotypically S-word motivated, it's impossible for a woman to R-word or take advantage of a man. Some part of us had to want it, and so we're shamed in a way, again, not worse but different, than how women are treated in similar situations. There's a unique flavor of shame that comes along with it that society tells us isn't actually there or shouldn't be acknowledged, heavily tied up in toxic masculinity and alpha male culture. Be patient, be kind, and be understanding. Don't push him to the realization before he's ready, but gently steer him in the direction when you can, and when it eventually comes up, be supportive, but never deviate from the essential truths. It happened. It was not his fault. He said no. You're there for him. Everything will be okay. Keep those things at the forefront, and he'll get there, and then the healing can actually begin. Edit. The crying and the, quote, "She didn't R-word me," the lies someone tells themselves over and over to convince themselves something's not true. You described is textbook denial. He knows she did it. His body knows she did. He's just not ready to say the words yet. Edit number 2. Also, as others have said, therapy. Everyone should be in it. Everyone needs it. him especially. Fiancé, 23 female, left me, 25 male, for someone she met at the gym. What now? By user Shark Eva. Hi everyone. I, 25 male, was in a relationship with my fiancé, 23 female, for 3 years. I proposed in October of 2025, and up till recently, I genuinely thought we were happy. Last week, she told me she met a guy at the gym. Over a few weeks, they got to know each other, and she developed feelings for him. When he asked her out, it made her question our relationship, and she decided to end things. I'm still trying to process it. The shock has worn off, and now it's just heavy. I'm dealing with anxiety, poor sleep, no appetite, and I can't focus properly. I wear a smartwatch, and even my resting heart rate has been noticeably higher. I've got a high-pressure job, and I'm worried this is going to start affecting my performance. I'm already going to the gym daily and taking magnesium and melatonin, but I still feel constantly on edge and nauseous. Seriously, I feel like I could vomit throughout the day. If anyone has been through something similar, how did you cope in those first few weeks? How do you calm your body down, sleep better, and start to feel even a little bit normal again? Is there any medication I can take to help with the anxiety and nausea? I'd really appreciate the advice because it could help me greatly through a challenging time. Thank you. And the OP left us with an edit on this first post by saying, I woke up this morning to over 300 comments on my post, and honestly, I wasn't ready for it. I sobbed reading through all the advice and people sharing their own stories. It's so easy to forget there are real people behind the screen, but I'm one of them. And the few minutes you took to write a comment genuinely meant something to me. I'm going through what feels like the lowest point in my life, and somehow a bunch of strangers on the internet made it feel less lonely. So yeah, thank you. I will continue reading all your comments, seriously. Getting into a few comments on this first post, one person says, sorry to hear this. First, this relationship is over. The sooner you move on, the better you will be. Note, if she comes back, it would be a mistake to get back together with her. She has already left you once, when your relationship was good and, quote, easy. I've been with my wife for over 30 years, trust me. There will be trying times. If she won't stick with you now, she sure as hell won't stick with you when the going gets rough. I know it's hard to think about moving on, but trust me, do it. You deserve better. This didn't happen because of you, it happened because of her. Be grateful it happened now rather than later, and you will find someone else. I had a serious girlfriend I was planning to ask to marry me. We broke up. I was busted for a long time. My wife is way better. My motto? Keep moving forward. Work out. Set goals. Have fun. 1 inch, 1 step. Keep moving. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. You will survive this and be better for it. Another person says, be glad you're young and you didn't get married. She did you a huge favor. Hard to see right now though. Another says, I know a bunch of married women who do the same thing essentially but stay married and don't tell their husbands. It's definitely a favor that she called things off and let him know there was another man. If they had gotten married, she probably would have questioned the marriage every time another option presented itself. Another says, gym relationships are based on pure physical attraction. He's a pretty boy with muscles and she's obviously that shallow that it worked. If it makes you feel better, he'll dump her ass as soon as he's banged her a few times. She'll be devastated and will contact you again saying she's, quote, had time to think, lol. Then you get to tell her hoe ass to get lost. And after 4 months later, the OP comes back with an update by saying, hello everyone. Around 4 months ago, in April, I made a post here that was probably the lowest point in my life. I wanted to come back with an update partly to thank everyone who took the time to reply, but also in the hope that someone currently in this position I was in might read this and realize that things really can get better. First of all, thank you to everyone who told me she would be back. I remember thinking it was strange that so many people said the exact same thing, and at the time, I didn't really understand why. LOL, I still don't know what the psychology is behind it. Well, you were all right. 2 months ago in June, I got the call. She told me she'd been dating the guy from the gym, and unsurprisingly to everyone here, she'd slept with him several times. She said she'd woken up one day and realized she'd made a mistake, and was willing to do anything to make the relationship work again. I declined and politely asked her not to contact me again, and I also blocked her, her friends, and her family. Had it not been for the advice from so many people on my original post, I genuinely think I might have given in. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Today, I'm in a much better place and genuinely happy with my own company. I wanted to share a few things that really helped me. I stopped isolating myself. Instead of lifting weights alone, I started trying different classes at the gym. I ended up really enjoying them and met some great people that way. I went to a 2-week solo trip. I took myself out for meals, explored new places, and just enjoyed my own company. I read a lot of the books people were recommended in the comments. No More Mr. Nice Guy was the one that resonated with me the most. I leaned on my family and existing friends, and I made a point of arranging lunches and coffee catch-ups instead of sitting at home. I started counseling. Being able to say everything out loud to someone with no personal bias helped far more than I expected. Most importantly, I embraced the time alone and journaled a lot. I learned a lot about who I am outside of the relationship and wrote down the things I wanted for my life. I've only recently started dating again, and it's actually been enjoyable. I'm not rushing into anything, it's simply been nice meeting new people and learning about different personalities. Healing isn't quick, and the damage from the breakup definitely affected me. I still have some reservations about dating, but I've also learned about the boundaries I will never compromise on again. If you're reading this because you're going through something similar, please believe me when I say this. It doesn't feel like it now, but it really does get better. The person who walked away wasn't the right person for you. And to everyone who took the time to comment on my original post, thank you. Your advice genuinely changed the direction of my life. And getting on to some comments on this final update, one person says, I guarantee you she didn't just wake up one morning and realized it was a mistake. That gym bro got what he wanted and moved on to the next one. Another person says, that's the thing about gym bros who are attractive enough to make women leave their fiancés for a fling. They usually have plenty of options and aren't racing to settle down and move in together. Especially not with girls who would dump their fiancé for a fling, lol. And one more person says, I love these delusional people who think they can have a backup in case the new exciting thing doesn't work out. I called 911 on my ex-boyfriend and now he is a registered SO. By user communicationold1199. My ex and I had been together for 3 years when this incident occurred, and our son was 3 months old and is now 2. My ex was a cheater, and I found out he cheated on me my entire pregnancy and was still doing so when I was 2 months postpartum. I didn't say anything initially because I was so heartbroken and suffering from severe postpartum depression and anxiety that I didn't say anything. He left the house one night and said he was going to his best friend's house. I had a gut feeling he was lying, and we had each other on Life 360, downloaded while I was pregnant for safety reasons, and I checked his location and discovered that he was pausing his location, so it just appeared he was still at home. I had remembered that he shared his location with me on Find My once, so I went to see if it was still shared, and miraculously it was. He was driving to 7-Eleven. I watched his location and he started heading toward his friend's. And I started to feel guilty until he passed his friend's house and parked at the park. I watched his location for 20 minutes and contemplated going there myself, but I wasn't going to drag my infant out of the house. I just sobbed and sobbed because I knew he was likely with a random person. I had found videos of him having relations with people outside and in parking lots when I discovered the cheating. I called 911 and reported 2 people having intimacy at the park, then went to sleep. The next day, I woke up to missed call from the police station and his mom. Nobody could bail him out, so he sat there a couple of weeks until he had a court appearance, and he was let out with a date to come back. In those few weeks, I felt pretty free and great about my decision. His family was super disappointed as his mugshot for public indecency and lewdness became public. He ended up taking charges for public indecency and lewdness and had to register as a SO, which has since become an obstacle for him to parent. Because he was at a children's park, it made his case pretty difficult and he isn't allowed at most places with kids. He can't come to our son's swim classes or any daycare events. I kind of feel guilty. Nobody knows it was me who called the police on him. I feel a lot of guilt because I know this will impact our son for the rest of our lives, and it's a choice I can't take back, and a choice I made out of anger. Getting into some comments, one Redditor asks, how was your relationship before he began cheating when you were pregnant? The OP responded by saying, it was great. He was very attentive, sweet, funny. He always thought of me and did thoughtful things. He was always there for me when I was sick or needed help, helpful with household tasks. He was a family man for sure, so I thought. We spent a lot of time with his family, frequent family nights. He'd help clean up and help with all the kids. Seemed like a pretty stand-up guy. The only red flag in retrospect was he was pretty hypersexual, but I didn't think much of it other than a high libido. but some of the stuff I kinda explained why he was so sexual and that I shouldn't have just passed that off. Another Redditor asks, might I ask how long you were together for before you were pregnant? That's so scary, that there was such a lack of red flags. The OP responds by saying, a little over 2 years. Another person says, this is literally so scary. He put both of you and your child at risk by having sex with other people. STDs/STIs are no joke. In my eyes, that is pure carelessness and recklessness and shows that he doesn't take your health or your baby's health seriously. And the OP says, right, it's disturbing. Another person says, interesting, thanks for sharing. I wonder if he panicked when you got pregnant and weren't as available sexually. That's no excuse to cheat, but I think some guys just can't deal. I pray for health and peace for your family. The OP responded by saying, we were still having intimacy super frequently, but he could have been cheating longer than I saw evidence from up to a while I was pregnant. I didn't have it in me to look anymore. What I saw was enough. Another says, this tickles me with joy. Get a divorce and he won't be able to get much custody. He's a piece of shit, and this revenge is delicious. Cheers to you, girl, and I'm so sorry you're going through this. And the OP responded by saying, thankfully we weren't married. When he got arrested, I used that as my proof that he was a cheater, packed his shit, and his mom came and got it while he was in jail. Changed my locks, and I have full custody. He gets supervised visits and was just allowed overnights that I stated, I'm only comfortable with this because his mom lives there. It's super hard, but I'm doing it for my little one. And that same Redditor says, oh, my apologies. That does make it easier. Do whatever you feel comfortable with, and I'm proud you're considering your little one so much in the midst of this. You're strong, and you've got this. Another says, don't feel bad. This is his karma. And the OP says, I try to remind myself this, but the guilt is still there. He could have given me something that I could have then given to my son since I was pregnant. Honestly, could have seriously harmed or killed him if I caught an infection that went unnoticed. And that same Redditor responds by saying, you're feeling guilty because you're a good person and have a conscience. Your ex, however, doesn't. He didn't just put you in danger, he put your child in danger as well. Had you gotten syphilis or HIV from him during pregnancy, your child would have gotten it too while in the womb, or other diseases he would have gotten during delivery. Unless it was a C-section. HIV can also be passed into the breast milk. Remember that next time you feel bad. My best friend is dating my ex 1 month after we broke up, by user Commander Cluck. Me and my girlfriend dated for 16 months, and she was my first girlfriend ever. I left my school to go to a boarding school in Japan, and 2 weeks after I left school, she broke up with me. After we broke up, none of the friends from this friend group even checked up on how I was doing or anything. But I still stayed friends. Then a bit later, I noticed that he was posting photos of her, and then randomly at a party, some guy told me that he's dating her, and all my friends didn't tell me, and even when I asked them about it, they lied and said he didn't. And then I showed them so much proof, and they said it's not a big deal and to make it up. I ghosted all of them, and today some random guy texted me and told me that he saw them making out in school. I can't believe every friend would just not care about even telling me, and he also would date my ex. We have been really good friends for like 4 years. Getting into some comments, a top Redditor says, there's a lot to say here. First, don't shoot the bystanders. I know how hard this is. When my first love and I broke up, like 4 people I know slept with her. She was doing it to get back at me. Pretty much everyone in our social circle knew about it and didn't say anything. Even my sister, who I shared social circles with, knew about it but didn't want my feelings to be hurt any worse than they already were. My ex slept with older men in her social circle too. Shitty? Yeah. I moved on and I made an entirely new social circle. The first lesson learned was that people aren't property. You don't get to place a lock on your girlfriend that prevents anyone else they know from having intimacy with her or dating her. We just don't get to control the world that way. You don't get to control your ex, and you don't get to control your friends. They're individuals with free will. At the end of the day, sometimes all we can do is look after ourselves. Later in life, I learned another lesson. Someone I knew was being cheated on, and I told them about it. Here's how that went down. First, I was accused of lying and making trouble. Then they didn't want to talk to me for a while. I assumed their home life was going to hell during that time. The friend pit my word against the cheaters, making me basically testify. I was getting grilled for answers by unrelated parties as well. Both of them now hated me. Ultimately, we were no longer friends. So there's that. And this happens so effing often, nobody wants to be the one to be the messenger. When this sort of shit starts happening with mutual friend couples we know, my wife and I have adopted a strict, not our business policy. And it really isn't. Destroy your own lives, not ours. Thanks. Other people's lives are such an effing mess, like drug use, frequent fighting, police visits to the house, frequent cheating, drama. You really don't want anything to do with it. No point in hanging out at ground zero, waiting for the bomb to drop on you too. Lastly, from my own personal life experience, this shit happens all the time with people 18 to 25. It's like, you have to have a few relationships that implode to learn what a real relationship and real loyalty looks like. By 30, most people are sick of this shit and looking for something more serious. Another commenter says, I guess take this as a lesson in life. Most people care about their own feelings ahead of the feelings of others. Not everyone is this way, but most are. It makes sense to put one's own needs/wants first, but when it comes to friendships or relationships, it can sting. This is just a big heads up that those people weren't really your friend. It could be that he was jealous of your relationship but never announced it. When you changed schools, it gave them a perfect opportunity to move in on your girl. I would very much suggest cutting those people out of your life, and they showed their true colors. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Just know that there are going to be future girlfriends. This is just the first. The first breakup always stings the hardest. Part of life. The one thing my mother always hammered into my brain, and what I'll end this with. When someone shows you who they really are, you listen. And they came back on this post with an edit by saying, 16 months is a serious relationship time. My first girlfriend and I dated for 18 months before breaking up when we went to college. Before she even made it there, she was on the class of Instagram page DMing guys before we officially broke up, looking for a new boyfriend. It took me 3 years to emotionally recover from that, and still, parts of that story sting. The worst part, we were going to the same college. Talk about oof. However, many years later, I'm with someone who was leagues above the girl I dated in high school. Had she and I stuck together, I never would have met the girl of my dreams. The pain is very, very real in what you're going through, but as mentioned, take it as a sign that she wasn't your person, and they weren't your friends. When you have a real friendship, someone you would show up to a fight for, you'll know it. Same with the girl. You'll know it when you find it. The first relationship you're in is really just training wheels. This sounds like to me like when you did go to that boarding school in Japan, he did try to make his move, and this has been going on a lot longer. They didn't just start dating right after y'all broke up. There was more to that than they let on. And yeah, it does suck. But this is your first, and like the other commenter said, it's just training wheels until you find the right one. You're just learning lessons as you live life. I am going to leave my disabled husband by user Wild Spirited Rose. I know that I'm going to get hate for this from people who aren't spousal caregivers and who haven't ever given someone all you have, only for them to cost you everything. In the next 9 months, I plan on walking out and leaving my cognitively disabled husband. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep sacrificing and living a life devoid of hope and joy. He stopped being able to be my husband and a partner after sustaining significant brain damage. I lost so much to his TBI, which was his own doing and was a symptom of over a decade of carelessness and poor choices on his part that I always had to clean up for him. He also chose to stand back for years before this and not show up for me. This time, I don't want to keep paying for his mistakes because this time, it can't be fixed, and staying means a life sentence. When I've already given him basically everything and all of me, I have nothing left for myself or anyone else. I've been slowly dying inside for a few years now. You can't heal in the environment that hurt you. And every day, I am reminded of everything that his carelessness has cost. There is nothing here for me anymore. If I don't leave, I will end up ending my life. So in a few months, after I've saved up and received my settlement from a pending lawsuit, I will grab the bags that I have packed in secret, load them into my car, take my puppy with me, and text my father-in-law that he will need to take over his son's affairs and that I will be back at a later date for some of my belongings. Financially, my husband will be fine, as long as someone manages his money for him and our house is already paid for. Reading some of the top comments on this post, someone says, as someone who did this exact thing in an almost identical situation, husband chronically ill, neurological and physical disability, previously not great partner at times, 18 months ago, you will not regret it. The 18 months haven't been the easiest by any stretch, but the one thing I do not regret was leaving. Be prepared for the relief to be almost instant and feel bad about that for a bit. For me, my life did a 180 in less than 24 hours. It was over. I never looked back. I would suggest some therapy if you aren't already when you leave, just to come to terms with it all. As I found when I did leave, there was a lot of lasting trauma from the role I had for so long. If you want someone to chat to, send me a message anytime. And the OP responded by saying, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I really appreciate it. This decision wasn't made easily or lightly. And that commenter says to the OP's post by saying, no, I didn't expect it to be easy. I privately deliberated for close to 2 years. I sobbed every single day in my car from the feeling. But honestly, the freedom is second to none. There is no other option, as hard as it may be. The situation you are currently in is not living. The stress and illness you must be facing that you don't even realize will melt away when you are away from the situation. Courage and strength, you've absolutely got this. Another commenter says, I would just try to get all your stuff for now. Who knows if your father-in-law will keep any of your stuff if you leave and try to come back for it. Your husband sounds like my ex, who is constantly doing stupid stuff and falling over and breaking bones. One day, my ex will probably end up in a similar situation. I'm sorry that you had to deal with this due to his lack of caring. Do what is best for you, and like the other person said, definitely get some therapy once you're settled. It has done me wonders. Another says, I have a godaunt who is going through a similar situation. Around 2 years ago, her and her husband were at a brink of divorce. Before going through with that, they planned a hunting trip with them and her 2 kids, not his biological kids. I don't know what he did to lead up to this, but as he was setting up his shotgun on the porch, he had it to his face. It went off and shot him in the eye through his skull. Miraculously, he survived, but it came with him suffering from brain injury that turned him into a completely new person. He has mobility issues too, along with not being able to hold a conversation without lashing out in anger. I feel so bad for my godaunt because she's basically been a caretaker of her husband plus a 15 and 9-year-old for the past 2 years. If she left him, I would 100% respect her decision. She seems so burnt out and tired all the time. You and her situation seems to align a lot. It's a hard decision, but I hope for the best for you. Prioritize your happiness. And the Redditor responded by saying, thank you for sharing about your godauntie. My husband as he is now is not the same man that I married, nor does he have the same capabilities. He isn't able to be an adult partner. It's like living with a 12-year-old most days. I am no longer a wife and a lover, but his caretaker. I am isolated and very lonely. I miss being cuddled. I miss surprises and date nights. I miss having someone who also has my back. My husband doesn't even have enough forethought to save a couple of bucks to remember to buy me a birthday card. I have to remind him to bathe, brush his teeth, wear deodorant, change his clothes, and what to wear that's appropriate for the weather. I am basically his parent now. I wanted children and a family. It's too late and not possible now. And if you made it this far to the end of the video, I just want to thank you for listening. Let me know down in the comments below which story shocked or bothered you the most, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.